Have you ever found yourself wanting to carry something like a Swiss Army knife for the utility, but you found it a little bit bulky, or you wanted to put it somewhere that you could easily carry it and never forget it? Say perhaps in a wallet? Well, in that case, you might be a fan of the Swiss Cards. This is an alternative form of the Swiss Army knife from Victorinox, and as you can see, we do have some different versions here. So let's break down the different benefits of the Swiss card, the different types of Swiss card, and if that might be right for you. First of all of these are generally the same outline of credit card, and they're going to be about 2, say, cards thick if one of the cards is embossed. In terms of overall size comparison, here we have the Swiss Army knife, specifically Classic 58mm, Cadet, which is 84mm, sorry, and a Explorer, which is 91. So roughly a little bit shorter than a 91mm Swiss Army knife. This quite easily does go into a wallet. I personally carried this particular one in my wallet for several years, and it did come in handy many times. I don't personally carry these in a card slot, as I found it a little cumbersome, and I tend to use leather wallets, so they do really stretch out an individual card slot. Instead, I carry these sort of like in a bifold in the note section. It does make a little bit more weight and bulk in your wallet, but it can be really worth it. So first of all, let's talk about this guy. This is an older model of Swiss card. I've owned this one in particular for, I think, well over 15 years. This kind of sliding door design is no longer used because it is a little bit fragile. But we will go through the overall tool set you get in most Swiss cards, and then how some of them differ. So we'll start off with this old guy. Now you're going to get a ruler on the top edge, and it's going to be centimeters on the front, inches on the back. Tool wise, you're going to get a small blade. Now legally, you've got to be careful because this does obviously technically count as a fixed blade, so you might want to perhaps, if you're going to be in a legal situation with that, consider leaving that out or replacing it with something else, or going with a bladeless model. To give you a sense of how big that blade is, compare it to the Classic. You can see that it's roughly on par lengthwise with the Classic, but you do get a taller blade. The handle is obviously much smaller, but honestly, for opening letters, opening a package, a snack, that kind of thing, it's more than adequate. Next up, we do get an excellent pair of Victorinox scissors. As always, Victorinox scissors are some of the best in the business. Now, this can be a little bit awkward to use just because you've got nothing filling your hand here, but I've found that these work just great for cutting nails, loose threads, that kind of thing. And if you want to carry something like this without the rest of the tool, you can just pinch this closed and put a little piece of elastic band, bicycle tie inner tube, something like that, over to keep the jaws closed. Now on this particular rotating door model, you do also have a protractor in the back, though I never use that, and you can see that it does get loose over time. Now that's all of the tools we have in this side. Flipping around to the other edge, you can see that up top we have a pin. This is similar to the pin that you'll get in the Plus models of Swiss Army knives, or that you could insert into pretty much any cellar door 91mm yourself. Next, this is essentially the Classic SD tool with a little bit of a plastic housing on the end. So we have a file surface and then a flathead screwdriver that could also be used for some very light prying or scraping. And next up we have some tweezers. The ever mixed review of the plastic toothpick. And finally we have a ballpoint pen. Now this is pressurized, so all of the good things you like about Fisher Space Pens in terms of reliability really does apply to this as well. Like I said, this is over 15 years old, and I have used this pen over the years. However, it still works just fine. So as you can see, the ink's blue. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world to hold, but you know, if you just need to make a quick list, jot down a card's registration, make a signature, works just fine. Now, of course, you can use the pen in accordance with the straight edge to make some basic measurement markings. So it all works together really well. And you end up with something that is around the same level of utility in terms of tools as a classic, but with the additions of the pin, pen, and rulers. Now this is a really great loadout. Again, in terms of size, you're really not getting a much more bulk for the amount of tools you're getting. Now there are a lot of different tools, and the version has really changed so that instead of this sliding door, the scissors now just have this little cutout, and that's generally how you'll have them. So the sliding door you might find if you get an older one on eBay, but generally speaking it's just not about anymore. The excitement of putting away tools. And try not to stab yourself with a pin. There we go. Now, like I said, there are a bunch of different models. I know that I don't have all of them here. This one is rather similar to the normal version that you'd get that doesn't have the sliding door. However, this, as you can see, is the Swisscard Lite. And the reason for that, quite simple, it has a little torch on it. The torch, as you can see through this, is, let me see if I can shine a bit more light through this, is very simple. It's literally just an LED diode, a coin battery, and then that switch is just pulling the coin battery between the legs of the diode. Now, the downside here is it is using a coin battery, so you can't just top it up before you go out somewhere. And it's not great for the environment, but hopefully one day they will make an inevitable change in that direction. In terms of brightness, it's not the brightest thing in the world. It is, however, more than bright enough to find a keyhole, look underneath a desk or something in the dark, and just for testing purposes, I have used this and it is adequate. Not great, but adequate to get around in a dark room as well. So we have all of the tools for the most part that you saw in the first one. We have the scissors, tweezers, pin, pen, the knife with the plastic going to more of this translucent plastic, with the rulers top and back. However, we've obviously gained the torch and a magnifier, which is quite nice. So if I can get that on camera. Now, the magnifier is going to be great for people that, say, if you don't have the greatest eyesight, perhaps you're getting on in years and you're finding yourself, maybe you are trending towards needing reading glasses. Perhaps you wear glasses full time and you don't like the idea of not being able to read should you lose your glasses. This does offer a backup. Personally, I find something like this valuable for looking at and getting at splinters, as well as reading really fine text that you might get on, say, serial numbers and that kind of thing. The other change we have here is this little guy. Now, this is called the Quattro tool, and you can purchase this separately. And this little guy gives us two different size flatheads and two different size two-dimensional Phillips. We do have a hole in the middle here. That's part of the retention to keep it in, but you can also just throw this on a keychain, something like that, and then you have an ultra light, ultra thin screwdriver to keep around with you. And don't go grabbing it with a pair of pliers and torquing it, but I've put this, well, between the two of them through quite a bit of use, and they've worked surprisingly well. If anything, I would recommend grabbing one of these separately. I know at the very least you can get them from Etsy separately, and throwing them in, say, a tin or a small kit, because for the space and weight this takes up, it is an excellent little addition. Now, of the other ones that I have personally to show you, we have this guy, which is obviously a little different. Now, this is called the Swisscard Nailcare, and this is the bladeless option. So you have basically the same layout as before, just with the tweezers coming over here, and this particular card does make use of the short tweezers. So that's something to bear in mind. However, you do instead get a glass file. So completely smooth glass on one side and then just a bit of texture on the other. And this is honestly great for taking care of nails. Between the scissors and the file, you have everything you need to, touch up a torn nail or just cut your nails in general. And if you are really in hard up straight and you are carrying a separate knife, you can 100% use this to touch up the edge. It would certainly do that. It's not the best option, obviously, but as a last resort, that is something you can do. Now, the utility, as well as the really fun, bright color, I think makes this great as a gift to people that are maybe a little bit tool resistant. If you are somebody that likes to maintain your nails, or if you have a girlfriend, something like that, that would like to carry something that's not intrusive, that lets them do that, then this is a great option. As it doesn't have a knife in it, this is technically, I think, TSA safe. Obviously, check your rules before flying. The only thing that I can see being a problem here is the scissors, but that's, your mileage is going to vary. I don't think many people will give you trouble over that, but obviously do your own research. You're accountable for your own carry. And this is a really fun one that I think rounds out a lot of other kits if you're going to be carrying a knife separately. So do I recommend the Victorinox Swiss Card? Yes, I do. It is a great platform in my opinion. I highly recommend, obviously this is representing the more standard version, which I think is called the Quattro. I would really recommend these two in particular. I like having a source of light as a backup, even if I carry a dedicated torch. I like the magnifying glasses, and that glass file is really good. Just be careful you don't break it because it is glass. So what do you think of the Swiss Cards? Have you carried one? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think that it could be improved in any way? Let us know in the comments section down below. And whilst you're down there, smash that like button and hit that subscribe button, because cringy YouTube outros are done for a reason. It really does help the channel. Until next time, have a great day, guys.